Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and distinguished delegates, so we will begin our G20 International Standards Summit 2022. We'd like to proceed to the third session of the day. With that said, we'd like to kindly invite all of the delegates that are still outside of the ballroom area to proceed to the ballroom area to enter the venue, and then please be seated. And also to our virtual delegates, once again, welcome back to the G20 International Standards Summit 2022. Now we're proceeding to the third session of the day, and that is in sustainable energy transition. Distinguished delegates, participants, and also ladies and gentlemen, welcome back right here to the second half of the G20 International Standards Summit 2022, right here in Bali, Indonesia. And also I'd like to welcome back and also good morning to all of you participants that is just joining us virtually around the world. Once again, during our session, we do want you, our delegates and also participants, to be engaged and also to be a part of our discussions and Q&A sessions. With that said, you may please input your questions, especially if you are now joining the summit through live stream. You can input your questions on the column chat from whatever platform that you're on, and also for our in-person delegates right here in Bali, Indonesia, you can just raise your hands. Now, without further ado, we'd like to proceed to the third session of the summit, and that is the sustainable energy transition, in which we'll be discussing energy transition and also security. And while tackling the damaging impact of the COVID-19 pandemic now for almost 3 years, nations, government sectors, stakeholders should see every energy transition as a continued priority. With that said, contribution from all parties, acceleration of clean energy transition is needed. With that said, this session will aim to demonstrate that energy planning, access, generation, efficiency improvements all benefit from the structure, know-how, and expertise continue in international standards. Together with testing and certification, nations are better able to maintain and upgrade existing electricity generation infrastructure, enable the integration of more renewable energy source to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and ensure long-term viability of energy investment. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker for this session, who will also be leading the session as a moderator. So without further ado, we would like to give this time and floor to Mr. Manish Pant, Zone President, East Asia and Japan, Schneider Electric. Please give an applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Caroline. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a privilege to be here on behalf of Schneider Electric to talk about energy transition. I know we have a difficult task here session to not just talk about transition, but make sure that we are having an engaging discussion here with our panelists that we have gathered. I just want to kind of add, to the slogan here, which is, go faster, and we can just add that we need to transition faster, right, as well, in terms of the response, the response together, and then let's add to that is transition faster. I think just to start to kick it off, I want to say that for Schneider Electric, which is, we can go to the next slide, is our purpose is very simple, which is to empower all to make the most of the energy and resources. And at the same time, we are powering and digitizing the economy based on our firm belief that together power and digitization are at the heart of life, education, progress, and also business, and this is what we call that life is on. Now, if we go back over the past 200 years, we have seen that we have, as part of our energy that we have been using, has gone through three major transitions, from the rise of coal in the first industrial revolution to the advent of oil in the mid-1900s, and then the introduction of assembly lines for the use of gas following the invention of the Bunsen burner. So these transitions had one thing in common, which was that they have been driven by the need for new and efficient energy resources to fuel the growing demand, as well as a result of the technological innovations that have been happening at those times, like the steam engine, the oil lamp, the industrial combustion engine, etc. And of course, the energy density every time it progressed kept on increasing as compared to the previous one, and that's what we got out of it. Now today, on the other hand, the energy transition that we are talking about is more linked to move from the hydrocarbons to renewable energy because it is driven by the effects of climate change, and it is not only about how the energy is produced, but also about how energy is consumed. And I think that's one of the change that we are seeing. Now, if we move forward, just to set the context again, that climate change, which is the next slide, is all about carbon emissions, and carbon emissions is the issue of energy. Today, 80% of the global carbon emissions are because of energy, which is coming from carbon-emitting fossil fuels, and 60% of that energy is lost. So it's also an issue of efficiency, and what we know is that as we move towards more electricity, the efficiency goes up. So thanks to electricity, we are able to directly feed the electric motor, for example, in electric vehicles, which is able to give much higher level of efficiency as compared to, the old ways of an internal combustion engine. Now we have another issue on the other side, and going back to the previous discussion, if you can move to the next slide, is Ian talked about 8 billion people, and out of those, there are still more than 1 billion who don't have access to energy. And while we continue to work on solutions to get energy to be sustainable and at the right cost, we also need to provide access to energy to those people who don't have it. Now, the case for change is very imperative, and we need to transition now. You can move to the next slide. So the case for change is because we have seen that the climate and weather-related disasters are increasing. The intensity is increasing as well as the frequency is increasing. We're talking about it that even in Bali we see floods. We see that in Australia. We see that in India. We see that in the U.S. And this is only increasing, which is going to not just cause a lot of damage to the assets that we have, but also having an impact on the biodiversity, which is very essential for future. World Health Organization believes that there'll be substantial loss of lives, unfortunately, if climate change continues to happen from the impacts, not only due to climate change, but the subsequent impacts due to nutrition, malaria, etc. Now, if you can stay on that slide, please, our studies at Schneider Electric show that what has been committed in the last COP, we need to be doing much more than that in order to achieve the goal of 1.5 degree of 2050. And what is very important is that we need to first reach the goal of 2030. And once we reach that goal, then only we'll be able to ensure that we are on track for the 2050 goal. And to meet that by 2030, we need to save 3 times more than what has been committed in the last COP. So clearly, a big task ahead for us. Now, if we move on, what the challenge is, how we can move forward. And at Schneider Electric, we strongly believe that electrification and digitization are in the critical parts of ensuring that we get to this climate change, and this is what we call as Electricity 4.0. Electricity is playing a large role, and it is the best vector of decarbonization because it can be completely renewable. Just stay on the same slide, please. What we also know that we already mentioned that it's more efficient as compared to any other form of energy. On the electricity side, the need for electricity is going to increase on one dimension, so it's going to double by 2050 to 40 terawatt hours from what it is today. Also, the mix of electricity in energy is going to increase from about 18% to 50%. And this is a big shift which is going to happen. Not to mention that within that, the amount of clean and renewable energy is also going to double from today to almost 56% by 2050. The other part of the equation is digital, which is also, I would say, a vector of decarbonization because it is bringing in technologies like IoT, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and is bringing visibility to energy use. Thanks to digital, we are now able to see how the energy is flowing, how electricity is flowing, and how electricity is being consumed, and therefore we can act on it and drive efficiency. Digital is also allowing for new services, new business models to come in, and is a key driver for interoperability, which becomes very important as we go on the digital side. And of course, it is a foundation of an enterprise metaverse, which is where more we are going towards. Now, what is the answer? And this is what we are here to discuss, and how we can be developing standards for that. If you move to the next slide, we see that 3 ways we can get to the path to net zero much faster as we continue to work on the future technologies that would come in. What we have to do now and by 2030 is to see how we are able to replace electricity with renewable. So that's one. The second is how we are able to electrify the uses of energy. Talk about electric vehicle, the proliferation of electric vehicles, which will improve the use of electricity. It's about heat pumps. It's about seeing how we are able to do with a lot of consumption, which is driven by electricity, and change the source to electricity in the consumption that we are making. And then it is about efficiency, which we talked about, that is going to reduce the amount of energy that we use because we will be consuming more electricity in the future. So these 3 are going to help us get on that track, and it is not about just being there, but this would mean colossal shifts in the way we do things. It's about the change in the grids. So the grid is going to move from being very unidirectional to multi-directional, I would say, coupled with a network, because today, thanks to renewable, you are able to generate at the place of consumption. Therefore, for example, through rooftops, therefore you're able to save a lot of energy. But at the same time, you are a prosumer. That means you generate your own electricity, but you also feed the electricity and share it with your neighbors or with the grid. Same for industrial processes, which will become very much embedded with technology, and the increase of interconnectivity and smart automation is what would drive the efficiency and therefore the savings which are required. So now, while these solutions, they exist today, we of course need to adopt them, and they need to be going faster, and this is where the standards and the international standards and organizations like IC and the global assessment systems come in, so that we are able to have consistency, and we are able to deploy at scale and deploy even faster. So to conclude, I would say that we need to act now, which is the next slide. We must act fast and we must act now. And it goes without saying that we have to also act together, because on a topic like this, it's all of us have to be coming together, whether we are government, whether we are organizations, or we are enterprises. We need to be all coming together and to say how we are able to make sure we work on this transition and go faster, because 2030 is just around the corner. Okay. So thank you. With this, I would like to set the stage and invite our panelists for an engaging discussion on this topic. I would like to welcome Dr. Badan Kusidiana on the stage. He's here with us. We also have with us virtually Dominique Verghese, Chi Shugang, Alistair McKinnon, and Tai Yip Wai, who will be joining us through the Zoom call. And maybe I will take this opportunity first to start with Dr. Dandan and share your opening comments and remarks.
Yeah, it's your call. Thank you, Pak Manis. Very good afternoon. Very good morning also to others. Thank you for having me here. I'm coming from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. I would like to express my gratitude to Pak Kuku Ahmad, the head of National Standardization Agency, and also to others, to WTO, to IC, to ISO, and also to ITU. So this is of course very challenging issues, in particular for us here that within G20 for the energy transition. The first that I would like to share with you is the result of our energy transition working group within the G20. We had the Ministerial Energy Transition Working Group here also in Bali last month. Of course, I said of course, we didn't have the communique, as also happened from others energy working groups, because the issue of the war. So we didn't come up with such communique. But the one that I would like to share with you is we have one deliverable. We call this is Bali Compact. Bali Common Principles in Accelerating Clean Energy Transition. So this is the one that I would like to share with you, that we come up with some ideas. There are 9 points that we agreed. It was agreed in the meeting. Yeah. The principle how then we could accelerate, as also mentioned by Pak Manis. Yeah. So for us, as the host for the G20, that will be also here in Bali next month. One of the main issue is the energy transition, in addition to the inclusive global health and also the digital. I think it fits with what mentioned earlier, that energy transition, I do agree that it has to go to green, to electricity, and it has also to come up together with the digitalization. So this is the one that I would like to share with you, that we had the Bali Compact that will serve as the principle for the members of G20 to work on. We had in the preparation, of course, each roadmap for each country, for each member countries of the G20. So we are continuing this principle to see next year, for example, in India, and of course the issue of the efficiency, the issue of technology that will be coming together with the standardization in particular for quality, for safety, those are, I think, very important issues. The second that I would like to share with you is how Indonesia is moving forward to go to the net zero emission. Our President Jokowi, declared in the COP26 last year that Indonesia is joining with other global society to reach the net zero emission by 2060 or even sooner. Yeah. And from the point of view of the NDC, the commitment of Indonesia is 29% by 2030, and for this coming COP27, we are increasing our commitment to be 31.2%. It will be also launching in the upcoming of the COP27. So let's see in much more detail what actually our recent condition in terms of electricity, for example. We are actually far behind our neighboring countries. It's not to mention the Singapore, but compared with Vietnam, for example, our electricity consumption per capita is just this year is, last year, it is 1,100 kilowatt hour per capita. Compare, for example, with Malaysia. Malaysia is already in number of 4,000. Vietnam is very close to the number of 3,000 kilowatt hour per capita. So it shows that the consumption will be growing, will be increasing. We have to provide, of course, those sustainable green electricity, and this is actually our pathway for 2060. We have more than enough energy resources in terms of renewable energy. We have almost any kind of the resources. Solar, I think it's not to mention the solar. We have hydro, we have bioenergy because we are in the tropical and agriculture-based country. We have also recently found the good resources for wind, and of course we are the second largest in terms of the geothermal resources. We are, again, Indonesia is maritime countries, one of the maritime countries, so we are also seeing to work together with provider of technology to develop the tidal. So it's not only the big amount, but also this is located quite well distributed along of the country. So you may see that, say for example, just to mention the name of island, Sumatra, for example. Sumatra is our western part of the country. You will have the hydro, of course you have bioenergy, and you have also geothermal. So it's going to east, to Java, to Nusa Tenggara Islands, to Sulawesi. We have 2 wind farms in Sulawesi, and we are not developing more in that area to do the expansions. And also actually in this island, I think during the G20 we will do the groundbreaking for the first 50 megawatt of the solar implementation in this island. So we are good in the number. We are also best in terms of the variation of renewable energy. So by this, I think Indonesia can make sure the sustainable and also the good quality of the energy. Of course, there are issues of intermittency, for example, for solar, for wind, but we have Schneider here, we have others. We are also developing technology for storage. So I think Indonesia is very optimistic to see that we will be one of the country also to do the acceleration in terms of the green energy. This is our net zero roadmap for the future. Actually coming from the energy sector, with our knowledge, with our experience, that actually energy could not make zero in terms of the emission. So in 2060, our projection, there will be around 129 million tons of CO2 still be releasing from the energy sector, but this will be seen by the follow sector, by forest, agriculture, and others. So in total, we will have the net zero in 2060. My last slide, because I believe that the time is very limited. We believe, and we do, of course, that the standardization is one of the enabling factors for scaling up of the technology and also stimulating the domestic industries. You saw the board over there, the Bangga of Indonesia, and also use the Indonesian product, for example. It has to go with the standardization. So appreciation to the BSN, to the National Energy Agency, works very hard and work with very good vision on how that standardization can make, at least for me, these two things. The first is quality, and the other is the local content. So we are combining the two issues with some of the, adjustment in the implementation. Yeah. So in terms of the implementation during the transition, resilient, safe, and innovative engineering practice are of course required to provide smart and sustainable energy solution. So we believe that the standards will become a foundation for our policy framework, and also, as I said, as the enabler for scaling up of the technology. So advancing the national standards should be allowed through the adoption of international recognized standards. This is what we have done actually from time to time. I have been working in this electric standard since 1995 something. So I heard the IC and other ISO since the time. We have also my team also here coming, and from time to time also we are joining the annual meeting of those electric sector. So in total, in particular for those that are related with the transition of energy, currently there are more than 110 Indonesian national standard SNI issued, ranging from solar photovoltaic implementation, hydropower, wind turbine, bioenergy also, and biofuel, geothermal, and actually coming from the new implementation, the coal gasification, and also as well as the minimum energy performance standard for energy consuming appliances. So meanwhile, the government also promoted stakeholders to comply with the international standards such as ISO 15101 on energy management, because Manis also mentioned that energy efficiency could contribute to at least 20% of the carbon emission reduction. So putting together on how to add more capacity through renewable energy, and at the same time, we are putting more effort also to increase the efficiency. So by this, I would like to conclude. Thank you, Pak Manis.
Thank you, Pak Adnan, and let's move to our to introduce our next panelist, Dominique Voorgis, who is the chairman of the ITU Study Group 5, and also a director of international relations at Orange in France. We can't hear you, Dominique. I think you're on mute. Dominique, we can't hear you. We can see your slides.
So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Very well. Thank you.
It's coming to reactivate. Okay. Thank you. Yes. So, I apologize for this technical delay. So, my name is Dominique Voorgis. So, good morning, afternoon, evening from Roma, Italy. As you mentioned, I'm chairman of Study Group 5, and we currently meet in Roma for our second plenary session. And that's why I couldn't, and I apologize, I couldn't join you in Bali, and I regret that. So I take this opportunity also to thank the organizer, and in particular the government of Bali, for hosting such an important event dedicated to the green agenda. My name is Dominique Voorgis. I'm from Orange in France, and I'm chairman of the ITUT Study Group 5. This is the lead study group in charge of environment, climate action, sustainable digitalization, and circular economy. And it is a pleasure today to make this presentation at the occasion of that G20 summit. I would like just, so give me just 1 minute. So I think now you can see better the slides. Is it okay in Bali?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Okay. So just to answer to the general question, what is the theme for today? How can standards support the green agenda? And that brings echo immediately to what has just been said by our previous speaker. I would like to recall, first of all, some general principles related to the role of a standard. And standards, as you can see on the slides, are a set of guidelines that are available for consideration and use worldwide. They are voluntarily developed, they are tested vigorously, and they are developed by a group of experts. They are consensus-based and driven by public consultation. So standards are documented, good practice, and are voluntarily applied. With the increasing need to attain the Sustainable Development Goals, there is a critical need to have proper standards in place. And we believe that international standards enhance the use of ICTs in several important ways. First of all, standards can help implementing of the necessary measures, processes, and policies for digital transformation. International standards lay the foundations for best practices, provide specific guidelines, and offer a way for cities and communities to measure themselves and improve practices. In addition to that, standards help establish common ICTs and digital technologies requirements. Standards facilitate sharing of knowledge and best practices by helping to ensure common understanding of concepts, terms, and definition, which prevents errors, and that is an important point. Standards also provide other benefits because standards generally incorporate best practices and conformance requirements. Their use typically results in improvements in quality. Standards reduce the number of technical variations and allow consumers easy access to interchangeable technology or interoperability, as it has been mentioned by previous speaker. Finally, international standards help governments and regulators to develop policies and help them achieve public policy goals. And this is also an important point that was just highlighted by our colleague from Indonesia. So in a nutshell, international standards have, let's say, pave the way for the adoption of ICTs and move towards a green digital agenda. So now, regarding the transformation to the green agenda, what is the role of ITU? So ITU is the International Telecommunication Union. It is one of the third pillar, let's say, of international standardization, in addition to IOC and ISO. ITU, International Telecommunication Union, is the specialized agency for information and communication technology, specialized agency of the United Nations system. And in some way, it is a unique organization because ITU is open to a wide range of participants, or let's say it's a multi-stakeholder organization, because experts participating in ITU activities represent administrations, governments, regulators, but also ITU is open to a direct participation of the industry, of academia, of SME, etc. And that is really unique in the UN system. ITU has and play a vital role in establishing the trajectory and standardization, digital transformation, and green practice. And this work is carried within one of its sectors, which is ITUT, the Standardization Bureau, Telecommunication Standardization Bureau. And ITUT works contributes significantly to the implementation of multiple sustainable related international commitments, including the Sustainable Development Goals, and ITU's Connect 2030 agenda for global telecommunications and ICT development. As part of ITUT, and you see that on the chapter 1, we do have a specific study group, which is the equivalent of a technical committee in our organization, which is the study group 5, the one I'm chairman. And this study group is responsible for studies on methodologies for evaluating ICTs in an eco-friendly way. Under its environmental mandate, Study Group 5 is also responsible for studying design methodologies to reduce ICTs and also e-waste adverse environmental effects, for example, through recycling of ICT facilities and equipment. In addition to the role of the ITUT study group, also we do have some focus group, which is a kind of different body, which is much more wider open to people who are not members of our organization and which can address very specific thematic, as the one, for example, which is on the slide, the focus group on environmental efficiency for artificial intelligence and other technologies. But they do have a limited mandate, let's say, to say that. So now, coming to the more specific action of Study Group 5 as an introduction, because one of my colleagues also will speak about that, Ms. Shi from China here. ITU plays a key role in supporting the green agenda, and this, as I said, is done by Study Group 5, and more specifically, Study Group 5 is responsible for various studies. First of all, these studies are related for assessing the environmental impact of ICT technologies, publishing guidelines for using ICTs in an eco-friendly way, dealing with e-waste issues, and this includes also the environmental impact of counterfeit devices, also enhancing rare metal recycling and energy efficiency of ICT, including infrastructures, and that is one part of a core action to help to achieve the ambition mentioned by Manish in his introduction speech. Study Group 5 is also responsible for study on how to use ICTs to help countries and the ICT sector to adapt to the effects of environmental changes. And this includes climate change in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. And finally, Study Group 5 is responsible for the needs for more consistent and standardized eco-friendly practices for the ICT sectors. That includes labeling, procurement practice, standardization power, suppliers, connectors, eco-rating schemes, etc., etc. So you can see, let's say, the 5 big chapters which are within the mandate of ITU Study Group 5 on the screen. In addition to that, we do work on human exposure to electromagnetic field, electronic magnetic compatibility, EMC, and things like that. And how is this achieved? This is done, the outcomes of the study groups within ITUT are called standards or recommendation in our language. We do develop 2 series of recommendations. For example, you have one example on the slides, but I know that she will develop some more. For example, the ITUT L.1480, dedicated to enabling the net zero transition. And these recommendations covers a wide range of activities that are related to e-waste, to the impact of ICTs on the circular economy, and in the processing of developing more. So the one I highlighted is the one, let's say, L.1480, which is currently the one in progress, which could have a more efficient effect for all sectors. So in summary, these recommendations provide methodology for assessing how to use the ICT solutions impact GHG emission also of other sectors. And that is also a very important point, because we do not only focus on the role of ICT and the impact on GHG emission, but also we think that what we are doing can help other sectors to reduce their emission. And that is also a very important point. The current period is really critical, and that's why this G20 summit is taking place at the, let's say, most appropriate time, because now everybody in the world is focused on that green agenda. And also in ITUT, we are committed to drive this green agenda. We just coming 2 weeks ago, let's say, from the most high-level decision body within ITU, which is the Plenipotentiary Conference. And this conference, which was held in Bucharest, concluded with adoption of very important resolution, and in particular regarding our activity. The most important resolution is Resolution 182, dedicated to ICT and climate change. And these resolutions highlight in particular 3 key aspects for our activities. First of all, Resolution 182 reaffirms that the ICTs play an important and significant role in protecting the environment and in promoting innovative and sustainable development activities. In addition to that, this resolution highlights also some, let's say, operational targets, and in particular, they highlighted the importance of the decarbonization trajectory for the ICTs. And this trajectory, has been developed jointly by ITU, by GSMA. GSMA is the Global System for Mobile Alliance, a very big alliance of operators of telco and manufacturers, of GESI, which is the Global E-Sustainability Initiative, and the SBTI, which is the Science-Based Target Initiative. And this trajectory is stipulating a 45% reduction in carbon emission by 2030. And that has been reaffirmed at the very highest level of the ITU. So to conclude, this Penipot, of course, recognized the critical role being played by ITU Study Group 5, so on climate change, on electronic magnetic field, on circular economy and e-waste management, and they reaffirmed that it is the lead study group to engage that work. So let's say, and this will be my last slide, we can say that this work and my presentation would not like to be only ITUT-centric, because what is important, and that is why we are here today, is that we work in collaboration with other standardization development organizations, with other high-level bodies, with other technical bodies, and let's say, very simply, I would say ITUT cannot achieve its ambition without cross-sector collaboration. And so you can see we work in collaboration with many key stakeholders from all levels. We do have, for example, close collaboration with many UN agencies. That includes the World Health Organization, WHO, UNIDO, UNFCCC, UNEP, UNICE, and more. We do have liaison and collaboration with ISO, IOC, and also with ETSI, where sometimes we elaborate some common standards with collaboration with the Technical Committee EE on energy efficiency. We participate in the COP agenda. For example, we participated in COP20 among, let's say, other events. And of course, we do have a collaboration, I mentioned that before, with GESI, with STEP, etc. And so through these events, we were able to promote using ITU's green standards to achieve a sustainable digital transformation and drive the green agenda. And to conclude, I would say, finally, we do not only think or act globally, but also it's very important to act locally. And in that way, we have 4 regional groups, and we organize a series of sustainable digital transformation dialogues through these regional groups last years, and this will continue. So thanks to the support provided by these regional groups, we were able to strengthen our connection with those regions and include more representatives from those regions in the standard development process. And we think that collaboration is a two-way exercise, which is really very important. So I would like to thank you for your attention. If you are interested by ITUT activities, do not hesitate to contact us. ITU is based in Geneva. And I do wish you a fruitful session, and it's very interesting to be part of that session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominique, for sharing the role of ITU. I think we are, and I would really like the group to thank Dominique for his introduction. Our next panelist is Ms. Chi Shu Guang, who incidentally is also working with Dominique in ITU 5 study group, and she is part of the China Academy of Information and Communications Technology. Over to you, Ms. Chi.
You're fun.
We can't hear you. We can see the slides, but we can't hear you.
Sorry, let me try. One
yes, we can see you. We can see you and hear you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let me do it again. Thank you very much, Manish. If you can confirm, see my screen again.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, a good day to all the colleagues. It's my great honor to be here to talk on this topic, ICT enablement of energy green transition to achieve net zero target. My name is Qishu Guang from China Academy of Information and Communication Technology. I'm also Vice Chair of ITU Study Group 5, just introduced from Manish. Thank you very much. And also I'm engaged in IEC and also sit from your organization, etc. Then I would like to go to the detail in very short presentation for this time, just for electricity or energy and digitalization. Just now, our moderator Manish also indicated that here is a very important two topics, electric and digital. And lots of organizations, have the
I think we have lost you.
Mr. Manish, I think this is a connection problem.
Yeah.
We'll try to reconnect again.
Do we move to the next speaker and come back to
Yes.
Ms. Chi? Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, we have. It seems we have lost her. Unfortunately, I'm sure we'll get her back. In the interest of time, maybe we'll go to our next panelist, who is Mr. Alistair McKinnon, who is the chair of the IC system for certification to standards relating to equipment, and especially for the use in renewable energy applications, based in Glasgow. So over to you, Mr. McKinnon.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. Manish, can you hear me and can you see my slides?
Yes, we can hear you very well and we can see the slides. The floor is yours.
Right, let me put this. Thank you very much. Let's put this on into slide view. I will try and keep my remarks very brief. I'm very conscious of time. So by way of introduction, my name is Alistair McKinnon. I'm based here in the UK. I've been involved in the wind energy sector for around 35, 40 years now. And recently I was invited to take over the chair of the IECRE Renewable Energy System, and I'll say a little more about that in a second. So just by way of scene setting, there are really two parts to what we do within IEC. We have the standard side and we have the conformity assessment side. Now, I'm involved in both, but my focus really today is on the conformity assessment side. So within IEC, there are 4 conformity assessment systems, of which the RE, the Renewable Energy System, is one. I'm not going to say anything about the other ones. You can check the website for that. And what we do within the conformity assessment system is we ensure that the technical requirements that are prescribed on the standard side are realized in reality. So IEC is the electrotechnical side of what we're doing. And within IECRE, we have 3 areas of focus. We have a focus on solar PV systems, a focus on wind energy generation systems, and lastly, on marine energy systems. So that would be wave, tidal, river, etc. So we have 3 technical committees under IEC, and I've listed them there. So that's TC 82, 88, and 114. And they are the technical committees that have responsibility for developing the technical standards. I see a hand raised from our colleague from China. Will I just carry on, Manish?
Yes,
okay,
please carry on. I think we will get Chi just after.
Sure, no problem. No problem. So to pick up where I was there, IEC is electrotechnical, so our focus was on those electrically generating devices. So say that's the three sectors that we're looking at the minute. So the technical committees define technical requirements, that's the standards, and the conformity assessment systems, we ensure that those technical requirements are fulfilled. So looking at the transition and the opportunity, some figures that I recently saw, which I was quite amazed by, suggest that there are around 45% of those currently employed in the energy sector actually work within renewables. I mean, that's a huge number. I'm based here in Glasgow, and we were delighted to welcome people from around the world to COP26 last year, where we agreed new climate change targets. And one of the ways that we can achieve those is through the deployment of renewable energy. And this is where IEC is key in that sense. How do we ensure that that happens? Well, we have this internationally agreed consensus, and previous speakers have highlighted, and I'm grateful for them highlighting how standards are applied and developed. Within what we are doing within the renewable energy side here, we look at devices at a component level, at a type level, and what we call a project certification level. So if you look at the picture on the right-hand side of my slide here, you'll see a typical wind turbine. So a component may be something like the blade there, it may be the tower, it could be the gearbox, the drivetrain. So we have standards to address all of these issues. When it comes to conformity assessment, we are looking at the whole device. And the whole device here would be the actual wind turbine that you can see in the foreground of the picture there. But we're also looking at more to do with the energy transition and power generation that Manish highlighted in his slides there. So we're actually looking at projects as well. So if you look in the background there, you will see some other turbines. So we're looking collectively at what happens at a number of turbines operating interoperably in that sense. And the same applies both in the PV sector and also in the marine energy sector. How do standards and conformity assessment help in this transition that we're also keen to achieve? Well, I think they help in terms of global harmonisation. And although we're operating globally, this is all implemented locally in that sense. And this is where our standards and our conformity assessment can support, particularly in developing regions. The big challenge we have at the minute is in international cooperation. So by way of example, within the IECRE system, we now have 16 countries involved in that. We're a relatively new system, but we'd love to welcome more to join us. And with that, I'll hand back to Manish. Thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. Clearly, conformity is important. Thank you. I think talking about conformity, we did have a failure here. And welcome, Chi, back. And the floor is yours once again.
Thank you very much. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes,
again?
we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me finish first. And so sorry for this network problem, caused from my side. And here's the result. I would like to continue just the point I stopped. Here's the results from organizations like saying that ICT can reduce the global GHG emission by 15 to 40%. From ITU, Then GSMA said that compared to the carbon footprint of mobile network themselves, the level of avoided GHG emission enabled by mobile telecommunication technology is 10 times greater by itself, Then Jesse also included that ICT can enable 20% reduction of global CO2 emission by 2030. And my organization, I'm fully engaged in this job. ICT can enable 12 to 22% of reduction of CO2 emissions to the industries all over China. So we can see that ICT enablement to the whole green development. And if we go a little bit into detailed how ICT can help, then there are three parts, in energy sector. First one is energy supply. From the energy supply, there are fossil energies and the renewables. For fossil energies, it will increase the energy efficiency from the power side, power plant, Then from the renewable energies, ICT technology, for example, AI, big data, can help these sectors to forecast what's the weather like, what will be the output power from the renewable energy, then coordinating with the traditional energy system and increase the percentages of green energy. This is the very good job, Then the second part, energy transmission, we can use ICT to help to decrease the energy consumption during the line. And another work is, for example, there is a digital twin technology can be used energy maintenance work, then to increase our efficiency and decrease the carbon emission from the maintenance work. On the utility side, energy consumer, for example, in industries, buildings, transportations, and other sectors, like, for example, now we are connecting virtually. Sorry for not going there because of another meeting. So we are together here to digital technology can help to increase the energy efficiency. One, for example, in the industry or factories, there's a platform to see how to controlling in a smart way to be more efficient and decreasing the GHG emission, maybe also promote the circularity. This is the point we can do. And again, back to ICT, we are talking about how ICT can help. Then another important aspect, ICT GHG emission, maybe it's not too much percentage. For example, from some reports public available saying that 4% of global GHG emission is from ICT, but it is increasing very rapidly, because we use ICT everywhere. So we can see from the picture here in the column that from data center and the network, energy is increasing rapidly, several times based on the 2020 to 2030. So this is the very important point. So we have to have a look at how 5G, for example, networks and the data center can be green. This kind of study also proceed. And again, because ICT also use energy, and there should be some green energy transition in ICT itself. Then we say they use green energy saving technologies, circularity in energy and the materials, and the management of GHG emissions and the optimization in a very accurate way. This is what ICT have to do. Then the last slide from my side is I would like to share what we exactly done in ITUT Study Group 5. Just now, our chairman, Dominic, already mentioned what is ITU doing, lots of topic, but focusing on the ICT, then we have standardization work already published, ITUT 1380 is smart energy solution for telecom sites, 81 is data center, 82 is telecommunication rooms. This is the smart energy series solutions series of recommendation, and 83 we go deeper to the smart energy solution for city and the home applications. Then we also now discussing, because now in Italy we have we are having the ITUT Standardization Study Group 5 meeting, and proposing a new work item, smart energy solution for manufacturing industry, because this is a series, Then we also have under developing recommendation. For example, you can see on the screen that specification for waste heat reuse in telecommunication room and the data center. And we also have net zero solutions. best practices to achieve net zero with ICT technologies, then also best practices for decarbonization of smart city and support of net zero. Then we are doing lots of work here, and also we invite all of our experts to be there, and we pushing together. So this is my last slide, and thank you very much for all of your attention, and I wish you a fruitful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Shi. We move to our final panelist, Mr. Tayyip Y, who's the General Manager, Southeast Asia of Electrical Sector from Eaton. Over to you. So over to you, Mr. Y, if you are...
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Hi. I hope, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen and can hear you very well. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. So can you see my PowerPoint already?
Not yet, not your PowerPoint.
Not yet,
I can
okay.
see you.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see your PowerPoint now.
Yeah, but let me just make sure that it's showing the right screen. Just a minute.
Maybe you can start with whatever. Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's great.
Yep. Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity. And today I would just like to touch about the topics about the intersection of digital transformation and the energy transition. So, based on the new S&P Global Market Intelligence report commissioned by Eaton Electric, assessing the intersection of digital transformation and energy transition across building, industrial, utility markets, and data center. Some of the quite interesting findings that I would like to share. First of all, right, results have shown that business would like to get more energy sources rather than just a traditional energy source, but the investment in digitalization is required to make it happen. Secondly, only 50% of the company are executing the digital strategy, and the rest are still considering or even have not even started having a strategy. And the last is less than a third of the company are tracking the key sustainability and energy intelligence metrics, and even fewer that having a digital enabling legacy system. And as you can see that we have a lot of opportunity to improve. Now, as you can see that there is a new power paradigm shift in the whole energy transition from traditional power generation to transmission and distribution. What we can see, or what we are seeing, that what is happening now is more renewable and a two-way power flow with the decentralized power is in the whole supply chain, right? And then the two major trends are driving the transformation of the energy world. One is digitalization. Second is a shift from a centralized and directional to distributed energy system. And these trends are, as well as consumer needs, are driving the development of a microgrids application. Right. So everything is agreed is Eaton's approach to the energy transition. The energy transition is driven by progressively replacement of carbon-based fuel with renewable, the direct and indirect electrification of more application. More distributed generation and electrification is increasing. The bi-directional flow of energy and associated requirement for intelligent power management is required to balance the grid. So just think about it. When you see that everything as a grid, you can envision a future where a home user use an electric vehicle battery for backup power during blackouts, a data center power operation with a renewable energy store on site, and manufacture a lower operating cost by selling electricity back to the grid. So thanks. There is a short introduction about how Ethan is seeing the energy transition and the relationship with digitalization. Back to you, Manish.
Yeah, thank you. So let's spend the next about 20-25 minutes that we have on exchanging and going deeper in some of the topics that we've presented. So I would like to start with you, Badan, about, clearly great to see the work that's being done, the challenge on one side of increasing the per capita, and then on the other side, the energy transition. Of course, it goes together. You talked about, so clearly there's an urgency of energy transition and the momentum that's been built with the G20 presidency. How does the government endorse the Bali Compact as a way forward in implementing this energy transition in Indonesia?
Well, thank you. I mentioned that we have Bali Compact. Bali Compact serves as the platform for us, for the cooperation, for the collaboration. I believe that in particular for Indonesia, probably we cannot work alone. We are, offering in that Bali Compact is that the cooperation, in particular, there are two things. The first is financing. The second is technology. So I think that two very important aspects to reach the net zero emission to go during the energy transition, it is there in the Bali Compact. And it is agreed, and it is, I believe, it will be supported by all of the members. So we believe that Bali Compact then will provide us with the platform for the acceleration. So I think that the one probably that coming, in my opinion, to see that this Bali Compact can do acceleration. The second one is, in Bali Compact, we also agreed to have the roadmap. It's not only the roadmap that I have shown to you earlier. I mean, Indonesia will add, for example, additional 1 or 2 gigawatt for next year, and then go like that. It is beyond of that implementation. For example, for the energy transition, we will need the storage, battery, say for example, battery. This will then require very specific materials, in which is not available in every country. So we are seeing that we will also be developing on that such kind of the very specific roadmap. So then we can improve, we can enhance the collaboration. So all will have the similar chance to get this material, to get this technology, and also to implement through the financing mechanism.
Well, thank you. I refer to one of the points that was mentioned by Lester, which was that 45% of the people are working on as an employment in the new energy sector. I think that's great news for most of the countries. And do you see the same thing? As you do that, it's going to generate substantial employment in Indonesia?
Yes. We are now preparing the green industry, for example. Yeah. So it's not only providing the product with the green aspects on the productions, but also how then to provide the green jobs to the people. Yeah. And we have seen, for example, for us here in the country, we are now the only country that implementing B30, biodiesel, 30% coming from sustainable palm oil blended with the diesel fuel. We are already at implementation. This year, we are blending of 10.5 million kiloliter, so 10.5 billion liter, put it into the tank for the diesel engine. And this, of course, absorb the green jobs from the off-farm and also the on-farm, in particular during the on-farm, in the plantation and also in the post-harvesting, and also during the process and distribution, the logistic, for example. So it has proven to us that the energy transition is not only providing us with the green energy, with much better climate in the future, but also providing the sustainable and also, a better payment, for example, through this kind of the transition.
Okay, thank you, Badan. I move to Dominique, and thanks for sharing in detail how standards have been supporting the green agenda. I'd like to know more from you. Is the ITU is the third pillar of the international standardization in addition to ISO and IC. Could you elaborate a little bit more on the role of ITU in achieving the green agenda and the energy transition?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so because sometimes sound is not very good, yes. Thank you, Manish, for your question. And indeed, as I mentioned previously in my slides, ITU is playing a key role. And let's say the point I wanted to highlight is really there may be two things. One I assessed at the end is we are working in close collaboration with some other, but more of all in our work, we do work including a wide range of experts of all these domains related to ICTs and green. And these experts are coming from manufacturers, from telecommunications operators, from SMEs, from academia. That means that we include the research part, which is important, and to try to develop them into standards. We include the manufacturers and the operators. For example, there could be one concern. Very often, the operators try to, let's say, impose or not, or it's a collaborative work, but just to say that they try to influence the manufacturers in the ecosystem in order to have eco-design products. And this is something which is quite important also because of that collaborative interaction between people. And at the end, what is important is in that wide range of membership, we do have administration, we do have regulators, because the telecommunication sector does have one specificity, is a very regulated activities. We are under, I shouldn't say under control, but is a domain where regulators play a key role in defining the rules, in defining the principle, the targets, and we see now more and more national regulatory authorities having put the green agenda to the highest top of their priorities, and also they participate in the work of ITUT Study Group 5. This is really important. And to say the outcome could be very valuable because there is some kind of, let's say, more than soft power, really a big influence of ITUT. Even if I said standards are voluntary or are based on the voluntary applications, as they are elaborated by this community, by this wide range of community, including experts of all parts of the world, that gives some kind of official recognition, or let's say more than a stamp, really a high-level body stamp that influence people, and with no contest, they take, all regulators, all administration do take these standards on board when they do establish their national policies, their national requirements, and things like that. And in addition to that, also, some of them, I'm from Europe, participate in our work, and they come to ITUT Study 5, for example, to develop some new products. For example, we do have on the works now, the work which is committed by the European Commission. So we have also that part of, let's say, the European Commission is not a regulator, but is a high-level body for all the European countries. And they plan to develop a digital product passport city sector in our future. And this could be elaborated also within our group, so in collaboration with all the stakeholders I mentioned. So you see that that role is really quite important, not only for ITUT Studio 5, but given the impact it does have for various activities, for various sectors, and for various in the applications of various policies. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that that resonates very well. I also, noted that when you were presenting, you talked about Act Global through local groups. I think that makes it very inclusive in terms of the development of the standards that ITU is working on. I'd go to Alistair, and you maybe a very basic question. I mean, as we start to talk about digital and the classical, electromechanical products, kind of coming together. Can you explain why, in this new context of energy transition, the international standards become so much more important?
Sure, no problem. Thanks for the opportunity, Manish. Probably, as you know, the IEC has a process whereby standards development work is governed, and that's governed on the basis of consensus. So within everything that we do, we try and achieve consensus. And in all cases, we eventually do achieve consensus. So the important thing is that everyone who is participating, their opinion, their view is equally valid in that sense. But what we end up with an international standard is something which has been agreed by those experts, which are generally global in that sense. So in terms, if I use wind as an example, so wind standards have been evolving since the late 1980s in that sense. So we're built up a huge repository of knowledge in that sense. So for people who are new to the industry, all of that information is there. In terms of how we deploy and we realize the targets that we want to achieve, we then have a baseline criteria. So that something, let's say a product that is developed in Asia, in Indonesia, by adhering to the requisite standards, that can be globally accepted here in Europe or the Americas or wherever it happens to be. So we're consensus-based. We agree what we're going to do. We baseline what the requirements are, and that helps with the globalization of what we want to do. So there really is a kind of business driver there as well. It's also helpful, I think, for governmental organizations to look to what is current industry best practice.
No, thank you. Thank you for that, and clearly good to hear from you.
Manish,
I would move to Chi and would like to kind of build on that. And what do you see is the role of standardization work for ICT enablement to green energy transition?
Thank you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the standardization work is very important. For digital and energy together, these are two parts, One digital side, ICT, we have some standards. Energy side, we also have some standards. But now we would like to combine, So standards can very good to lead the direction, how they can understand each other very well and to overcome some challenges. For example, maybe digital side cannot understand what is in the energy side because it's very technical point, another sector. And from the people in energy sector, okay, I don't know what is the too much about, but yes, they are generally know, but too much about what is the cloud, what is the AI, 5G can be used in energy sector. So in this stage, we have to consider how they can collaborate this very well, and how our standard can lead them to the quite right direction to achieve net zero targets. And with the standardization, we have very good quality of product of the product. Then we also have very reliable systems which can support our development of society. And also, as well as we have very good best practices. In our international organization, you find a lot of best practices to just take a reference to different parties to push forward the green energy transition. So this is the standard we can do. We can give very good support and a very good direction. This is my understanding. Thank you, Manish.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chi. I now move to Mr. Y. More on the, I would say, on the application side. You talked about everything as a grid. And if specifically have to ask you for some examples on data center application, data centers was also touched by Chi in her presentation. So it'll be good to hear from you on that.
Yeah, thanks, Manish. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Just to confirm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the speakers mentioned about data center, I think more than once time. And data center is one of the key segments that Eaton have been focusing a lot. And I would say that, for example, in Indonesia, the country itself, right, data center have been growing tremendously with the investment from outside the country and also the locally, right? So if you look at how energy transition happening within the data center itself, right? One of the example I can share is how Eaton have collaborated with Microsoft. So we have this energy-aware UPS system where the electricity grid get the support or in the transition with the renewable energy. So how it works is the Eaton and Microsoft have added the digital capability to the UPS system, which allowed the use as distributed energy resources to support the grid from the power quality point of view and also the supply chain point of view, right? So one very important value as well that with that, right, we also can monetize the unutilized asset in the data center with the megawatts level that increasing in the data center in terms of sizes that we are building globally, right? So this is one of the examples that how energy transition have impact in a positive way from the data center itself. Back to you, Manish.
Yeah, thank you, and clearly giving the opportunities to have multi-application solutions being developed. Now we have 5 minutes left, and what I would like to do is maybe go through the panel and ask for your summary of your key takeaways that you would like to give to the audience. And we can start with you, Badan.
Well, thank you. From the point of view of the energy sector, for us, the standard is technical requirement. So this is the start. Yeah, this is the beginning. So and I would like also to propose and also to echo the global harmonization on this, and then continue with the local implementation. We know that, for example, technology for hydrogen, then for energy storage, the ammonia implementation, for example, and also the battery itself, it is in the development, and Indonesia is having resources on this. We are rich in terms of nickel, manganese, for example, cobalt, but we are lacking in terms of the lithium, for example, and also graphite. So by having this, I mean to the preparation of standard, how to go to the fulfill requirement of the battery, for example, then at the we may hope also to have more collaboration in the industry. itself.
Clear.
Thank you, Pak Manis.
Thank you, Pradanman. Dominique.
Yes, thank you, Manish. So for me, as a main, let's say, takeaway from my session, I think there is a very big similarities, or let's say we do share exactly the same goals, in particular between the electricity sectors and the ICT telecommunications sectors. If I remember well, we have this common ambition to reduce by 3 to 5 times the CO2 emissions. We all agree to limit the global warming by 1.5 degrees. And I do think that ICTs can help to achieve that ambition. And that is our common goal. So that has been mentioned also not only by me, but also by She. There are various concrete actions. We do it locally, but also by on the development cycle of products, on the life cycle of products. We do use solar stations. We expand the life cycle of many devices, products. We do reduce the cost of the energy consumptions of the network, which is a big part. My colleague previously mentioned the consumption of data center, which are really important. So you see that, in my point of view, that is one of the big takeaways of that session today, that a cross-collaborative action between the sectors, the energy sectors, the ICTs, is really a mutual benefit. ICT, of course, is doing its best effort to reduce its consumption, but also can play a key role by helping the other sectors to reduce their consumption. And I think that is really important to achieve that target. And for the rest, as mentioned, we also are solidly convinced by the role of local action. It's not only to develop, and as it has been said, we develop standards. They are really important, a critical part of the way to help to achieve this goal. These standards are consensus-based in IEC, in ISO, in ITUT, and that is really helpful, and that helps to their implementation, at the local level.
Thank you. If we can move to Chi.
Thank you very much. Just to conclude that ICT technology, just now also Dominic mentioned, ICT technology played a great role to decrease the carbon emission for whole society globally, and also it's right time to take actions to push ICT itself green development. Just now our speaker mentioned a lot, data center, 5G, etc. It is very important. And the international standard, or we say standards, will play a very important role as a supporter and also leader, I just mentioned, in this way to achieve the net zero goal. Thank you very much. Back to you, Anis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chi. I move now to Tayyip Y for your key takeaways that you want to share.
Yeah, if I would to make a summary, right, I see a very close relationship between ICT or digitalization with energy transition, because of in order to achieve energy transition from a traditional to a renewable, I would say that the technology, the digital part, play a very important role. And at the end, what we would like to achieve is less carbon, a more resilient energy supply chain, and at a lower cost. Thank you, Manish.
Thank you. And finally, your word, Alistair, you have the last word in the panel.
Thank you very much, Manish. Perhaps I can refer to your slides at the beginning of the session, where you talked about impact today and deployment tomorrow. And I think what we're doing within the standards and conformity assessment world allows us to get that impact today, and we already have that. But the development of our standards and the development of our conformity assessment will allow us to deploy in the future in the way that we must do in order to achieve the targets. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to all the participants. My big takeaway is, as you were saying, it's about we have to act now, we have to act together, whether it's about resources, whether it's about across technologies, and it's only working together that we are able to get on this path of 1.5 degree and successful energy transition. Thanks to all the panelists and for the wonderful discussion.
Thank you very much. So once again, can we have an applause, please, to Mr. Manish and, as our keynote speaker, and also who moderate the third session of the G20 International Standards Summit, as we've just concluded the energy transition and also security session. And we thank you very much, Mr. Manish. Well done. And hopefully that the session is very impactful and also very fruitful for you. And again, thank you very much to all our speakers for the third session.